In this video, we will demonstrate how to work with form controls or build form-based applications using React. Now there are various form controls that we can use to capture data from users. For example, we can use various free form controls like text field, or we can use selection controls like combo box, checkboxes, radio buttons, and others. We will demonstrate how to work with such form elements with React applications. We'll begin by creating a React application or project first. So we'll run the command npx create React app, followed by the application name exercise25. This command will create the React application. The output message, Happy Hacking, indicates that the React project has been successfully created. Now, to load the project into our IDE, we'll access the File tab from the top navigation panel, select Open Folder, choose the project folder, and click Select Folder. We'll be using this project to illustrate how to create form elements. There are two important files within the SRC folder. The first one is app.js, which contains the component, and the second one is index.js, which renders the component. The root element is located within the index.html file, which we'll find within the public folder where we've defined div ID as the root. So this is the element where the component will be added. Now we will configure the app.js file so we can illustrate how to create a component which will act as a form element. And for that, we will add a few extra lines of code. Every component contains a form, and the form has certain controls that can collect data from the users, and such data can change. And in order to manage that change, we have to manage the state. In order to pass the data for rendering, we will need to use props. Now, the presentational component may not use the changes in the data, but the container component has to manage the state change of the data. Considering this, we will just add a constructor, and we'll pass the props for this constructor. We'll also ensure that we're passing this props to the superclass, which is the component. So now we'll be using the constructor to manage the state. Then we'll define the state as well, specify this.state, followed by an object, and within this object we'll add a state, and that state will be a data, and the initial data is enter name. Now that the initial state is configured, we will be specifying a callback method, which will bring the state changes when an event occurs on the control. So let's specify the method, this.updateState, and it is equal to this.updateState, which is the name of the method that we will define, followed by .bind, and we will pass this. The next task is to define the method which will manage the update, and this update will be bound to the control that we will also need to define. The control will be of the type form. It can be an input field or any type of form element which we want to use to interact with. So the method will be updateState and will pass event to the method so we can identify where that event was generated. After we've identified where the event was generated, we will be able to set the state. So we'll specify this.setState and pass an object in the form of data, which will be the new state. The data is E, which is the event, followed by target, where that event occurred, and the value of the particular target. This is the state change mechanism, which will be managed by the method updateState, and this method will be called depending on the event. Now we need to configure the render method, and we need to be careful when we do so. We don't need the header for now, so we'll delete the header section. We only need an empty div. Within this div, we will create the controls, so we'll add input and specify the type. The benefit of JSX is that we can avoid lengthy JavaScript codes and rather write short and clean codes. The value is this.state.data. We will also be managing the event changes as well. So we'll specify onChange followed by the this.updateState. Now, whenever there is a change, it will call the updateState method, which will in turn update the state of the data with a new value. Then we will add another control as well. For example, we'll add H2, and using this, we will display the current data so we can monitor the changes. So let's specify this.state.data. Always ensure that we are using curly braces to treat them as expressions. We'll further add another control. For example, we'll add input and specify the type as password. And then we'll specify the value is equal to test. Now, if we want to handle any event for this control, we can do that as well. But for now, we'll not specify any such event. So depending on the tags that we want to use, we can build the form element using this particular approach. We've so far written the codes to create a form and manage the state of the value, which will be populated in response to an event of that particular form element. Ensure that we are saving these changes or configurations. Before we can run or start this program or application, we'll confirm that the component app is specified in the index.js file as well. We can observe that the appropriate method, component, and elements have been specified, and we will also confirm the element root is present in the index.html file so we can attach the component. Then we'll access the View tab from the top navigation panel and select any console to access the terminal. Ensure that we are accessing the exercise 25 directory on the terminal and then execute the command npm start to launch this application. Since we used the utility create React app to create this React application, all the scripts are included and configured in package.json. So we don't need any extra configuration. When the application launches, we are provided with the initial data enter name. Now let's try changing it. For example, we'll input Scott, and we can observe the changes being affected immediately. The password is provided as well, but it's not affecting any changes because we didn't specify any event for this control. So this is how we will create, use, or work with form elements and manage the state changes of the form elements using React.